All right, y'all, let's get into Labor Day and the 818,000 jobs never created and the DNC coronation of Kamala, that crowning, that birth. And this is tied to the birth of the man-child and such, because on 9/3, the banks are closed on Labor Day. Maybe they won't open on 9/3. Or maybe the market crashes on 9/3, and this is the start of those time frames, because the 818,000 jobs is tying into that Last Supper. It's tying into the 8-1 for the 35 on the trillion, and the 8-1 ties to the Biden being 81, and also the King Spirit being born on 1/8/35. So we're sewing in fabrics of time. We're sewing in different types of reality. And this is where you get like the crowning on this one to a fetus, to the like the birth of the man-child. And then as that birth of a man-child, we have multiple lights and multiple realities going out, to where you have this man-child giving birth through the fear and through that pussy, that crapture that's coming and such. And then you have and that's part of that wiping everything out. And we saw that toilet paper shortage back at the beginning of COVID. That's where you see the toilet paper shortage in the end on a different reason, or flip-flops or whatever kind of thing, all right? And then that toilet paper for your things that are being fun or whatever, it'd be too expensive to get all your shit or whatever, all right? So, this is where like the boys with the most toys wins, because once that game stops and once that so-called heaven and earth stop, that's all the shit you're ever gonna get. Okay, because y'all are following the petrodollar, and that's that petri dish and those things, and that petri dish and that bacteria and parasite and all that shit needs to be cleared out. So since it needs to be cleared out and that petri dish gone or whatever, it's like a self-contained unit where the petrodollar, the petri dish, the people of these old values or whatever kind of thing, the old earth and heaven, the serpent stings, the hornet stings, and all these things are being built upon each other to where it's going to take that shit out. All right, at least as far as mentally, and knowing is half the battle. So this is where you have to learn to walk upon these waters, maybe if you've had 1, 2, or 3 of these things. All right. Because we don't know if however many are water or however these things are working, all right? But I do know that there are implants, and the implants are shown coming to life with a Lil Jon video, and they just show pounding on the balls and all this other stuff, and it's where you, whatever thing is going on, and the nuts are being shriveled up, and the old teabagging is done. Okay, but going into the time where the male and female is made after one type of being, and the Adam was male and female. So this is where the Adam is both made into a fucking woman, because your nuts are shrunk. All right, but we'll let you fill in all the gaps, because it says at a time, beware of the women who give suck in those days. And then the church tries to teach you, well, it's this. It may be that, because they're talking about baby formulas being tainted, and it's not the women giving this naturally. It's the women that are going to the bottle. The formula for that Formula F1 racing, for that driving shit going on right now. All right. So, we saw the baby formula stuff going on before. This is where, dude, you got to get back to as natural as possible, or to whatever, because y'all are in a crash course, dude. And y'all are being taken for a ride, and y'all are the passenger. All right? And y'all are just passing along Jared's channel, which is mine. So, time to wake up. But, you know, water's a little bitter. They're bitter because they've been fucked around by the fucking system my whole fucking life. Starting with kindergarten. With Miss Newman. Well, she made me a new fucking man. I learned to watch everybody. And I didn't become codependent like everyone else in this fucking nation. And your happiness is based on whatever light out there. And that light's being taken. Become unhappy. Birth of a man-child. Become as a fucking brat. And tear shit apart. You don't listen. You gotta be spanked. That's the pan. Kansas. And the Kansas is before you. And the can's being kicked down the street and you're inside of it and you don't even know it. And then also that can is being used to cook you in because you're a frog. And you don't feel the water's getting hot. Like starting to move around a little bit, like what the fuck is going on? I'm getting in 3D, I'm getting in the 4D. Yeah, in the 42 months where the dragon's giving the last bit of power. And you got the 4 heads, the 4 months left. Boom, boom, boom. 4 days on the DNC, 4 days out. All right. You got the Ukraine war tied to the February 26th. The 26th is the 9-2 on the flip side with the mirror. The 6 being the 9. And then also the 5 is the 2 on the mirror. And Starlink was 2019, 5 years ago. All right. And 95 is the number for destruction. And then also the 20 is the Gemini Trump, for Trump being the Gemini, this zodiac sign that he was born under. And also he's been given the ring for the bridegroom situation. And also Starlink was launched on 2/28/2022, and that 8/22 ties to the last day of the DNC of Kamala and such, all right? And then Starlink was 2,000 terminals, Poland, and then 6,000 terminals and dishes. So the dishes are going on for the Last Supper. And then that 8/26, we may see something unfold that takes us into that Labor Day kind of thing for one into another. Or we may see from Labor Day on out or some types of things. But this job's never created, and the Labor Day and Kamala coronation and all these things are all going together, and that Kamala crash that they did when she started rising to power, and then that was during the so-called 25th Amendment that she claimed, and then this is Labor Day is 52 days after the shooting of Trump, so that ties in that mirror for the birth on the cross for the Jesus, for Christmas, December, because that's when the sun goes underneath the cross of the zodiac or whatever, the crux, and then it starts rising again. So from 9/23/24, that's the end of the 7 years the woman was covered in the sun, and that's where the dawn, the foot of the woman or whatever, but the dawn's not going to, and then man, my mind's all over the place. The dawn is not going to show its light, so this is where a good chance the dawn is taking out in some way, shape, or form, and this is lining up with his trial or whatever, and then we can see where Mike Lindell, the pillow for the American dream and the sleep and all these other things to go against the woke movement for that transformation and these types of things coming. That is where the he proves the election fraud and those types of things, and then he wants the paper ballot, and this is part of the marking in the right hand for the buying and selling, for the checking yes or no and those things, and the paper is being cast down to the ground for the Satan and all those things. I've covered these in many videos before, breaking all this stuff down. If y'all don't have a clue what I'm talking about, the birth of the man-child, we can see intertwining. We see like Maryland having its state fair during these times, the Mary land and the pole land, and Mary is giving birth, and she's swollen, and she has to give this bleeding and those types of things for the birth of these things coming out. So as the bleeding happens in the ears, and this is part of the gunfire and all those other things going on or whatever, right? And the stop, drop, and roll. The stop, drop, and roll is part of that rock and roll and all this other stuff, because the sex, drugs, and rock and roll are the lights that are dividing this world, that are part of the image that's given life to divide this world, and it makes people hate themselves, and makes people hate their five senses, and hates breeding, hates children, hates whatever kind of fucking thing is going on, to where they don't want to continue on. They don't want to continue their seed. Okay, so I always knew it was going to be end times. And when I graduated, the millennium started, the internet started, all these things I was being taught in church, like all these things happening. So it's like, I never wanted to have kids because I didn't want to be beast men. And then I got to a point in time where end times unfolding this way, that way, and whatever. I'm like, something's not right here. And then eventually we got to the trumpets sounding. What the fuck is going on, dude? Like, y'all not hearing this? Are y'all not seeing what's going on? He's just coming out in from nowhere. Like, he's this dude. He's the man of sin. Blah, 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 blah. And then Adon means the Lord's Christmas. All this shit's all there. And then the world shuts down. It's like, dude, are y'all this fucking dumb, dude? I've been waiting for this my whole fucking life. And then I was taken up onto the high place when I heard the fucking trumpets, and I was shown what was coming. And I had to figure out what was going on since then. I've had to learn to walk on the waters. And as you learn to walk on the waters, you have this light coming down, and the water's reflecting as a mirror. And there's times of rapid, you can't see shit. There's times of calmness where you can bring the things together. And you have to bring in the two together and merge them and see, oh, that shape over there, this is coming in to make this and whatever. As it calms down. And as a storm is coming, it's getting calmer. Because I've been in that storm. I've been in that storm like my whole life. As a teen, as an adult. Knowing end times is, I'm here waiting. I'm waiting. I'm living my whole life for it. Not living my life the way the church says. Jesus is answering my prayers as far as giving me knowledge. Because I prayed for also knowledge as a teenager. And I'm going into some dark corners, and I'm learning how the so-called streets work, and I'm learning how the teachers and the lawyers and the doctors and all these so-called people that you look up to are doing these and that and whatever in the darkness. How do I know? Because I'm the party. I'm the distributor back then. I'm bringing their life to them. So that's how I know. And then on top of it, the system effed me over from day one pretty much with Miss Newman at the so-called Christian school. Beren. And I went there for 2 years. First grade teacher was great. Miss Bushy was great. I loved Miss Bushy. And then went from there on out. Went to a secular school after that. But either way, that's a whole nother story. But we're going to end it here because of time and get into part 2 with the Labor Day.